Number 10. Skittles. Of all the companies that advertise at the Super Bowl, Skittles is the last one you would think of to take it way too far and get their commercial banned. Skittles commercials often feature characters in many strange scenarios with the ever-present motto, "Taste the rainbow." But in this case, that is the last thing you want to do. In this commercial, the Skittles appear as a product of a recently married couple's sexual fervor when they spray out of the man's genitalia and all over his newlywed. The advertisement was banned from the Super Bowl because Skittles are generally marketed towards children. It was deemed inappropriate for them to watch, and nobody wants their children to get the wrong idea of sex from a Skittles commercial. Number 9. Sorry, Coke and Pepsi. You would think most companies know what they are allowed to display on television and what they are not allowed to display, what they can say and what they can't say. So it befuddles the mind when you see commercials filled with profanity, women in various stages of undress, tons of sexual innuendos, and think that the people that made the commercial actually thought that what they had created was acceptable. This SodaStream commercial is no exception. SodaStream is displayed as a healthier option to regular soft drinks that use carbonated water and a selection of powdered flavors. The commercial features a more or less fully clothed Scarlett Johansson and is nothing out of the ordinary. She tells you how it works, how it uses less sugar and less bottles. But then she says, "If I could only make this message go viral," and proceeds to toss off her robe, revealing a sharp dress. Music starts playing, she drinks the soda and says, ruining the commercial's chances, "Sorry, Coke and Pepsi." Obviously, neither soft drink brand would be pleased with this. They had obviously never gotten the rights to say this, and it was never aired. Why they included such a dumb statement, nobody knows, but without it, there was no good reason why the commercial couldn't have been included. Number 8. Durex. What's the worst that could happen? This commercial is quite dark for a proposed Super Bowl commercial. It features several periods of a man's life when he is 72 to when he is conceived. The boy, born from his parents' lack of protection, would rob a bank at the age of 72, break into a house in his 40s, run children off the street into oncoming traffic when he was 18, and would burn a cat in a stove at the age of 4. But his very first deed would be to cause his mother's death on the very day of his birth. The very end of the commercial portrays a couple in sexual acts when the woman asks the man if he has protection, and he shakes his head and says, "What's the worst that could happen?" This commercial obviously portrays a highly unlikely worst-case scenario, is slightly disturbing, and asks a question no condom brand ever should. One can't help but ask how far companies will go to convince you that using their product is the right thing to do. Number 7. Bud Light Clothing Drive. Sometimes companies put real effort into creating top-notch and amusing commercials instead of just stripping down a bunch of women and putting them in front of a camera. Not to say people were not stripped down and put in front of a camera in this commercial. However, this time they did have a good reason. Because if you walked into this office and donated any article of clothing on you, you got one free Bud Light for each piece of clothing donated. This, of course, led to nearly every man and one woman stripping naked and going about their work as normal, causing a few mishaps and, of course, awkward situations. Like when a man runs to catch the elevator with 2 other women already waiting inside it, or when a guy walks into a wall as he walked past the naked female receptionist. The commercial wasn't sexual in any way. It was all done in jest and everything was appropriately censored, but they still couldn't quite get away with an office full of, presumably now drunk, naked people. Number 6. The Super Bowl is one of the best ways to put something, anything in front of tens of thousands of people. When you are an activist group of any kind, getting a commercial on the Super Bowl spreads your ideas like wildfire. Along with the fact that sex sells, which we see so often it might devalue itself, is still a thing. So in order to get their animal rights ideas out there, PETA decided to submit a commercial to the Super Bowl commercial playlist that focused on the theory that vegetarians have better sex than non-vegetarians. The entire video is chock full of women in various states of undress performing sexual acts with vegetables to heavy metal saying, "Studies show vegetarians have better sex." They didn't show anything too mentally scarring, although sex acts with vegetables would make some people assume so, but it was by no means acceptable and banned from the event. Number 5. First time Doritos. Your first time should always be something to remember no matter who or what it is with. But in this Doritos commercial, a young lady turns to her boyfriend, whom she is celebrating a 1-year anniversary with, and says, "I'm ready." Slowly, the camera pans over to the right to reveal a bag of Doritos. A bag of Doritos can't exactly perform any sexual acts whatsoever, but it does put some effort into trying, jumping on her, and seemingly covering her with kisses. But just later, after the girl and the bag of Doritos profess their love for one another, and she starts to lean in, the top of the bag pops open, spraying Doritos everywhere. Even though the bag of Doritos didn't technically ejaculate because it's a bag of Doritos and there was no actual sexual content, it was still enough to get the commercial cut from the Super Bowl. However, it must be admitted that theirs is still a better love story than Twilight. Number 4. The Carl's Jr. Big Sausage Breakfast. When you think of banned Super Bowl commercials, you probably think of a company going way too far with exploiting feminine sexuality. Some do it more creatively than others and actually use it to prove some kind of point. After all, it is the Super Bowl, and some people go on the internet just to watch some of the more amusing ones. But when Carl's Jr. decided that they would advertise their new big sausage breakfast at the Super Bowl, they didn't think of anything clever. They simply took a hot, barely dressed cowgirl and had her reach down in the most sexual way possible and take out a very suspiciously shaped sausage sandwich. She never got around to eating the sausage, as the actor was far too busy licking it, sucking it, and wiping cheese drips off of her chest, despite one of the restaurant's mottos being, "Eat like you mean it." This commercial was probably banned because of its sexual content, but is even a poorer commercial due to the utter lack of creativity that you expect to see from a Super Bowl commercial. Number 3. Jesus hates Obama. There are a lot of people still bothered by Barack Obama's election to president for both ethnic reasons and political ones. But saying that Jesus himself hates Obama is a little bit of a stretch. However, that's what a company called Jesus Hates Obama did when they created a merchandise commercial and submitted it to the Super Bowl. It's a short video with Jesus and Obama bobblehead sitting on a desk. Obama looks relatively pleased and is bobbing his head up and down, but Jesus doesn't seem quite so happy. Using his power, somehow the Jesus bobblehead causes the Obama bobblehead to fall off the desk and into a fishbowl. Now Jesus seems happy and is wearing Jesus Hates Obama merchandise. I'm not sure if this is quite enough to convince me or anyone else that Jesus really hates Obama, or enough to convince me that he's even a poor leader. You could easily find it more amusing than wrong, but it was still taken down for being an offensive advertisement. Number 2. Rolling Rock. Another excellent commercial that was not allowed in the Super Bowl commercial reel was a Rolling Rock brand beer commercial. This one did not exploit female sexuality, but targeted something else dear to a man's heart: their genitals. In the commercial, there's pandemonium at the baseball game when the baseball becomes a crotch-seeking ball of destruction, flying all over the place, hitting the team mascot, the popcorn salesman, and even inside to hit the casters. "Nobody is safe," the announcer shouts in panic, but he is wrong. For there are 2 men drinking from bottles of Rolling Rock in the stands, but they are safe because they are wearing sports cups. Until the very end, this commercial was acceptable and one of the more entertaining commercials to be refused. But when the video ends and as the commercial sums up the information, there's a bottle of Rolling Rock spraying out foam with a pair of baseballs next to it on either side and the phrase, "Remember your cop." You can probably imagine what this is attempting to portray. Had they cut this last bit out or changed it, there's a good chance this commercial would have been accepted. Number 1. Bud Light Swear Jar. This is the second Bud Light commercial on this list with a similar cast and setting to the previous one, but sadly for them, it was also not accepted. However, this one's a little bit better. If your office or workplace had one of those swear jars that you put a quarter in whenever you cursed, Wouldn't you be interested where all of that change was going? What if you were told it was going towards a case of Bud Light? Well, that is what one office worker was told during Bud Light's banned Super Bowl commercial. Of course, everyone in the office wanting some Bud Light began cursing at each and every opportunity. For example, "Erica, I have a douchebag on line 3 for you." Or when a manager at a board meeting gives his staff an inspirational speech, but nearly every word is bleeped out, leaving you to wonder what exactly he said. It all goes well for the office workers, and at the end, the manager toasts the staff with his bottle of Bud Light, saying, "I'm so proud of you motherfuckers, hear hear." Even though everything was appropriately censored, one of the most amusing Bud Light commercials was banned for excessive profanity.